So this week I saw in a YouTube video an interview with a man, an Israeli, who was really an expert on the history of that whole area between Israel and Palestine. This, of course, in light of the conflict that has surged. And I was very interested in this. He started the historical analysis of the area way back in 1880 and moved on forward, giving a lot of information that I wasn't aware of. Nevertheless, at the end, the interviewer asked him a very good question. Says, imagine 50 years from now. He said, probably you and I probably won't be alive by then. But in 50 years, let's suppose that the conflict has found a peaceful solution. Okay? So there's peace in the Middle East. And the interviewer asked this historian, this expert, what happened between now and 50 years from now to create that peace? And the man thought, and he says, I don't know. He says, I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine what would happen. And that really kind of shocked me, because we're living in a moment where people are proposing some solutions, but not a lot of energy around peaceful solutions right now. We're in the middle of a conflict. Experts don't even see a way out. And of course, here we are stuck having to deal with all of that conflict and violence and grief in the world. And so I thought today we would explore this and see what we could do to respond to this. And I greet you once again, Juan Enrique Toro, greeting you on this channel. Thank you for joining me. Remind you to give me the thumbs up, really helps the channel. Subscribe, you want to be notified when new videos come out. And of course, thank you very much for all of you who have made those donations. We're very grateful. The links for those donations will be found in the show notes. And so I've entitled this little chat today, The Power of One. And it has to do with a question that I'm going to ask you. And there's really no right or wrong answer, but I'm going to base this talk on this idea. Let's suppose that in your body there is one cell, just one cell, that turns cancerous. Okay? The question is, what power, how much power does that one cell have to influence the other cells of the body to also become cancerous? Okay, so one cell becomes cancerous. What is the power of that one cell to affect the others? Now, I'm no medical expert, but I would guess that even if one cell turns cancerous, that it would have the power of affecting others so that the body or the organ could become riddled with cancerous cells. So the power of that one cell could be, not necessarily is, but could be very difficult for the body. Let me pose another question. Let's suppose that the body already has cancerous cells in it, in a particular organ. And I know that some organs are easier to heal from cancer than others, but let's just take any organ that you can think of. And let's suppose that one of those cancerous cells heals from the cancer, releases the cancerous cells. So releases or heal, one cell heals. So let me ask you the question. What power does that one cell have to influence the other cancerous cells to heal? Now, you answer that question for yourself. We live in a world in which we tend to put a lot of power into the negative. We give a lot of attention into the way cancer spreads and moves. We don't give so much attention and power to the healing, right? Obviously, in your own life, if you've had a healing, it's a wonderful thing. But in general, the news reports don't say, today we had 10% of cancerous patients go into remission. Nothing like that. We do get cancer statistics and all that, but that's obviously reporting on the negative. And so what I want to offer today is that we have our minds skewed into thinking that maybe that one cell that healed from cancer isn't as powerful as the one cell that was healed but then turned cancerous might have more power. I'd like to invite you to reverse that, to see that that one cell that healed is the cell of resurrection, is the cell of healing, of possibility. And I think that's what we're all about. Now, I'm going to expand that into inviting you to consider that you as one individual in a world of billions of people has the power to contribute to the collective consciousness in a powerful way. The power of one is that you on your own, if you can come to a peaceful state within yourself, that can have a very powerful effect on the rest of collective human consciousness. We oftentimes don't talk about that, but that is the truth. So you in your life, doing your forgiveness work, doing your healing work, finding peace inside of you can have a powerful effect upon the collective consciousness of the planet. And I believe that if one of us do it, the others do it, that there's a movement towards a surging of peaceful consciousness on the planet, that problems like the ones we're seeing in the Middle East can be resolved peacefully. We can live in peace. That, I believe, is the power of one. Now, we could ask ourselves, well, how do we do this? How do we do this? So what I'd like to do is offer a little how-to so that we can take this for ourselves, to do it within ourselves. It comes from 4 different questions, to be curious about our own state of consciousness, to see where it is that we need to heal. And I believe these 4 questions, these 4 ways of framing something like this is very important in times like these. You know, experts aren't offering us creative solutions, loving solutions, peaceful solutions that everybody can get behind. I think we need to find our own answers inside of ourselves, not necessarily to the outer political condition, but to the inner state of conflict that we may feel. Certainly in these times when this conflict broke out, all those horrific images, the videos, the points of view, the judgment, the condemnation, the sense of separation, I could feel it all inside of me very, very strong. And so I thought I needed to do something for myself, and I'd like to share it with you today. So these 4 inquiries basically has to do with, first, we need to establish a vision, right? A vision of what really matters in life. We need to see life from the highest perspective. I'm not talking about life in general, I'm talking about my life. What is the highest vision you have for you? Because that puts us in a framework that is very important. Next, we need to ask ourselves, where am I? Where am I in consciousness? What am I thinking? What am I feeling in this moment? Not at some future moment, but in the now, right now. What emotions do I need to deal with? And then ultimately we come to the question, how can I meet this with kindness? Right? The spiritual answer always has to do with a sense of acceptance, of kindness, towards other human beings and towards ourselves as well. So we need to go to the heart and ask ourselves, what is the most heart-centered response that we can have? And fourth, what action am I going to take? Right? What action? What am I going to do with this? How is love going to show up in my life? Or maybe another way to frame the question is, what is love asking of me in this situation. This is the action step. This is the response space, okay? So I'd like to take you through my own personal journey here and show you how these 4 questions can be handled within yourself. The first question is, what is the highest vision? You know, you sit down with the intention of taking this difficult situation between Israel and Palestine right now, or any difficult situation that you may be facing, and you ask yourselves, well, from my perspective, what vision do I have about my life? Now, we're not interested in overall platitudes. We're interested in knowing, you know, what is the highest vision that I have for myself? And the way I like to frame this is, I'm seeing myself, you know, on my deathbed. I'm seeing myself getting to the end of my life. As I look back on my life, what would I like to say about how I've handled things in my life? And as I sat sort of meditating on this, with that conflict clearly in mind, I thought, you know, my future self on my deathbed, what I'd like to be able to say about myself is that, well, I was able to respond and not react. You know, I've reacted a lot in my life, but towards the end of my life, I'd like to be able to say that I took a certain amount of mastery in being able to respond to life and reduce my reactivity. I was very conscious of my response. You know, take a deep breath, see the pause, and have a clear consciousness of how I responded. Of course, I want to respond from the highest level of the greatest vision. So that's the framework that I'm coming to this question with. The second question is, well, where am I? Where am I in consciousness, right? What am I feeling? And as I did this, you know, boy, there is all kinds of emotions that came up, right? Anger, grief, judgment, condemnation. You begin to get into, you know, feelings of powerlessness, of hopelessness, right? That's certainly what came up for me. I certainly felt powerless. You know, that came into my mind, I'm only one individual. What can I possibly do? Well, when we affirm where we are, this is so important in being able to know exactly what it is we need to work. You know, Carl Jung said that our suffering comes from the unseen and the unfelt parts of our psyche. He said suffering comes from the unseen and unfelt parts of our psyche. So when there is suffering, there's something separating us from where we are. Our object is to be able to see it, to feel it, to give it space inside of ourselves. And to answer the question honestly, what is true here? I remember when I was in India once, they shared this story with me, which was, I think, very powerful. It's a story of a young boy who's playing with a ball, right? And he gets bitten by a poisonous snake. And the parents are aware of this. You know, the boy falls over, is convulsing, is having difficulty with this, and there doesn't seem to be a hospital nearby. So they think, let's take him to a holy man. They take him to the holy man, and they say, you got to be able to help this guy. And the holy man says, well, you know, my spirituality doesn't include spontaneous healing. And they say, come on, you got to be able to do something. And the holy man says, well, the only thing I can do is speak my truth. So he puts his hand on the boy's head, and he says, you know, the truth is, it's been a long time since I've lost any sense of holiness within me. And really what I've been doing for many years now is just holding the appearance of holiness. He spoke that truth. He divulged that. He confessed that. At that, the young boy opened his eyes, stopped convulsing, but he wasn't able to stand. So the holy man said to the father, why don't you speak your truth? The father says, well, you know, people see me as a successful businessman. I'm very rich and I have influence. But the truth is that despite my success in business, I feel very empty inside. I don't feel generous. I don't feel at peace. I don't feel happy. I feel that I'm totally empty. With that, the boy was able to sit up, but he wasn't able to stand up. So the father said to the mother, speak your truth. And the mother says, well, the truth is I love my son, but it's been a long time that I've lost love in this marriage. And the truth is that I'm in this marriage just for my son and basically out of fear. I have no love here. And with that, the boy stood up and went back to playing with the ball. This is a story about confessing where we are truly in our minds and our thoughts and in our feelings. This is a powerful step. We have to ask ourselves, what am I unwilling to feel? Get in touch with that, because when you see it, you know exactly the work that you need to do. And like I say, for myself, I felt, a tremendous sense of sadness, of grief, of anger, of condemnation, and of powerlessness. I felt a tremendous sense of powerlessness within me. It was very, very, very deep. Now, if you go to the third question, we ask ourselves, well, how can I meet this with kindness? And this is the step that we're going to now include our heart. Like I said, our spiritual journey is always finding ways to bring in kindness and love, acceptance, right? Being willing to see all parts of self and express kindness to all aspects of self. So, to my anger, to my grief, to my condemnation, to my sense of powerlessness, kindness. Open your heart. Sometimes we need to call upon symbols of love for ourselves. Maybe it's the presence of Jesus Christ. Maybe we need to touch the earth and draw from the earth a greater sense of power. Maybe we call upon our ancestors. Maybe we put our hand on our heart. Maybe we just simply affirm that I am a fountain of love. But we need to stimulate the kindness response there. Let's not forget prayer. This would be a time to pray for love, and to pray for love, and to pray for love, and to pray for love. And finally, what would love do now? What is love asking of me? This is the fourth question, right? And this is such a powerful way for us to contemplate life, because it comes to a place where we recognize the validity of all life. For me, in that third inquiry about how can I open myself to kindness, after going through the sense that, boy, I just got no answers here, I feel grief, right, and powerlessness. Underneath all of that, there was a sense that I love life. I love all of life. I love all expressions of life. It came like an affirmation from inside of myself. So in this fourth inquiry, what is love asking of me? It would be to really be curious as to how I could express that love in all aspects of myself, to see life, all of life, as precious. And it sounds maybe petty or small, but in the small judgments, the small condemnations that I have every day of the everyday people I run into, the people I work with, my own self, the way I judge and condemn myself, all ways of loving and accepting that part of myself. So these four inquiries can help us come to a place where we can really express love. This is a very powerful exploration, and it's not just a one-time sit right? We do this once. Sometimes we may take these 4 inquiries and they maybe it can be done out of order. Doesn't quite matter. The important thing is to get to that place where we can answer that question with some sense of conviction. What is love asking of me now? And for me, it was a call. It was a call to see the preciousness of life in all expressions that I behold. Now, that's where I came to. Maybe you come to a different place, but ultimately love or life was going to show you what it is that you need to do for yourself. This is the power of love, and this is the power of one. Let us remember that Jesus said very clearly, if I be lifted up, I lift all others unto me. He's affirming this statement that I'm sharing with you today, the power of one. If I be lifted up, just one. If I be lifted up, I lift all others unto me. So if I can heal my grief, my powerlessness, my anger, my condemnation, my judgment, I'm going to open the door for you. And if you can do it within me, you're opening the door for me. If I be lifted up, I lift all others unto me. And so maybe we don't have clear political solutions to the conflict in the Middle East or any war conflict at the moment. Ultimately, we know that suffering is based on what's unseen or unfelt. Ultimately, we know that what we do within ourselves needs to be done en masse. But there's power in just one of us. In just one of us, coming to a sense of love, of peace in our world, in our sphere, in our influence, a sense of belonging to the greater expression of the preciousness of life. If I be lifted up, I lift all others unto me. Juan Enrique Toro greeting you on this day, thanking you for the thumbs up, for subscribing, and for those wonderful donations. The links are below. And reminding you today and always, life is consciousness, and consciousness is life.